know where it's time to go. We all know what it's time to talk about. The New York Giants have finally decided to get their acts together. It has been announced that Daniel Jones, quarterback out of Duke, the number 6 overall pick in this past April's NFL draft, is the new starting quarterback for the New York Giants. Eli Manning, 232 career starts since 2004 NFL record. It has come to an end. It's not consecutive starts because Bob McAdoo, the chubby Pat Riley wannabe who decided to bench Eli Manning a couple of years ago, ended up losing his job along with the GM. That's not going to be the case for Pat Shurmur. Here's the situation. Daniel Jones has been named the starter for Sunday's game at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Since 2017, Eli Manning, third worst QBR, fifth fewest yards per attempt, minimum 500 pass attempts. Eli Manning is not what he used to be. I know there's a lot of people that might question this. I have no problem with this move by Dave Gettleman, by Pat Shurmur, by John Mara, by Mr. Tisch, by the Giants organization. It is absolutely, positively the right move to make. And here's a couple of reasons, a few reasons as to why that is. New York Giants are 0-2 on the year. New York Giants have looked absolutely putrid offensively. Even worse defensively, by the way. Ranked 30th in the National Football League in points allowed. Ranked 28th in yards allowed. Ranked 30th in yards allowed overall. In passing yards allowed, 18th against the run. The only thing decent about them is their rushing attack because Saquon Barkley is clearly the best running back in football talent-wise.
Everybody loves Kevin Durant. Everybody.
Kevin Durant is the finals MVP. It's everything he said he wanted. And he just wasn't happy enough about it.
You just wonder, what's up with this dude?
Now that we know that he's like this, I don't know that the reaction should be simply to just shrug and say, stop being so sensitive.
I have no idea what the hell happened to this dude. I mean, he ain't never happy.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line.
From New York this Friday, covering the Jets-Patriots matchup, part of ESPN Radio's Fall Football Tour. Brought to you by Marathon. Get 5 cents off every gallon every day with Make It Count rewards from Marathon. To sign up, visit MakeItCount.com or download the free app. Welcome back to Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, the New York Jets are 23-point underdogs against the New England Patriots this Sunday. The Dolphins are 21-point underdogs against the Cowboys this Sunday. Those heavy underdogs, it marks the first time two teams are favored, meaning the Cowboys and Patriots, by 20-plus points in the same week since 1987. That was the strike-shortened season when the NFL used replacement players. Shows you how bad things are looking for the Jets and the Dolphins right now. Let's go to the phones before Tilman Fertita, owner for the Houston Rockets, calls in. Let's go right to it. Let's see. Let's go to DeMario. You're live with Stephen A. Real quick, DeMario, go.
Hey, how you doing, Stephen A?
I'm all right. Real quick. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I was just calling, man. I support you, what you're doing for the community. I'm an HBCU graduate. I was just calling to say, how do you feel about KD, man, leaving? Do you think if he had Mark Jackson there as a basketball fan and as a black man in these fields and these positions like yourself and like you gave credit to your job, ESPN, who's the boss, how do you feel about if Mark Jackson would have been there? Do you think things would have been a little different?
I think it might have been a little different, but the bottom line is you can't argue with the job that Steve Kerr did. He won 2 titles, and he's taken them to the finals every single year. He's been there all 5 years. They've won 3 titles, 2 with KD. 3 titles altogether, lost the other 2. One could have argued they could have easily won the second one, and LeBron wouldn't have ever won that championship in Cleveland if the NBA hadn't given LeBron and Cleveland that stimulus package by suspending Draymond Green for that bogus kick after LeBron threw him to the damn court at that particular moment in time. So I don't like that. But I got to go right now, because on the line, I have a guy who's one of my favorite people in all of the NBA. He is the owner for the Houston Rockets. Obviously, he's got a new book out. It is entitled Shut Up and Listen, Hard Business Truths That Will Help You Succeed. It was released yesterday, September 17th. I'm talking about the one and only Tilman Fertita, the owner for the Houston Rockets. He's on the line with us right now. What's going on, buddy? How are you, sir?
Oh, just in New York, getting around a little bit and watching you on First Take and your show and getting educated on the sports world.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Let's talk about the education that you're providing. You have this book. You're talking about this book, Hard Business Truths, okay, that will help you succeed. Talk to me about what inspired you to write this book, and what do you believe people will get out of it most?
You know, Stephen A., I was doing a television show, $1 Billion Buyer, on CNBC, and just people over the years have watched me on all the business shows and all the articles, and HarperCollins came to me and said, hey, Tilman, why don't you write a book? We don't want a life story. We want to know how you did it. We want to know how you went from one restaurant to being Forbes' richest restaurateur and one of the richest guys in the United States. And I said, you know, I've been very fortunate, but I have all these little Tilmanisms and things I live by, and the 95-5 rule, and take the word no out of your vocabulary. There are no spare customers. Change, change, change. Be plappy. And so I just kind of talk about everything I did, and it's a self-improvement book. It's a business book, but I don't care if you're going to work at ESPN as an intern, or for me, or if you're an entrepreneur. It's just how to live and do the right thing, and we're in the hospitality business. You're in the hospitality business. You know how to take care of your guests. You know how to handle things, and that's what we all do every day, is say yes and take care of people.
Tilman, what is the 95-5 rule?
This is something that I started years and years ago when I would be training my general managers myself. 95% of everything is right. So look for the 5% that's wrong. And it's just like I used to say, all right, guys, before you open your shift, go out in the parking lot. Is there Coke bottles in the parking lot? Are there cigarette butts and candy wrappers around the front door? Or are there any burnout lights? Is there any dead plants in the garden as you walk in? Is there smudges on the front window? Because you set the tone for your customer. If everything's right out there, then they're probably decent operators inside. If you're not a good operator, you're not even going to take care of the outside of your building, much less the inside. So it's looking for the 5% that's wrong. No different than you when you're getting ready for your show in the morning. What am I missing? What can I do to make this show better? And that's the 95-5 rule.
Tilman Fertita, owner for the Houston Rockets, right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. The man started out with one restaurant. The man is worth about $5 billion right now. Tilman, I got to ask you this question. How has that mindset, that thinking, shaped you as owner for the Houston Rockets?
You know, that's a great question, Stephen A. You know, Daryl Morey says to me all the time, and I have a great basketball ops team, and this, you know, more than ever, you know what you know and you know what you don't know, which is something I talk about in the book. And I'm totally dependent on these guys, and they're so smart and they're so great with their analytics. But Daryl still says to me all the time, you know, Tilman, I never thought about looking at it that way. That is really a good observation. And so it's still using great logic on making good decisions. And when we were doing the Westbrook trade, you know, I threw some curves at my guys that they hadn't thought of before. And so you can use the same business principles and everything. And I've always said, if you can if you're a good business person, you can run anything. I don't care if it's a basketball team or an aquarium or a restaurant or a casino like I do, or an amusement park. And it's you use the same good principles and logic, and you can use it all across your life in every way.
As an owner of a professional sports team, what is the one thing you have learned you absolutely cannot have if you expect to succeed as an organization?
Well, you first off, you got to know what you know and what you don't know, and you better depend on your people every day. And sports is religion, and you got to make really, really smart decisions. And you got to decide that you want to be a winner, or you just want to be average, or you want to be a loser. And I treat my basketball team just like I do in everything that I do, and I don't want to ever rebuild. Right now, I think the Rockets are tied for the second most consecutive playoff appearances behind San Antonio. Us and Golden State was 7. And I want to be in the playoffs every year. I don't know that I could take come April and not be in the playoffs. And so you got to keep a winning culture. And I think my guys, Tad Brown running my business side and Daryl running the basketball side, they know that I expect to win every year. And they know that I don't want to rebuild. And so when this group of guys' contracts run out, that we're going to get out there in the free agent market and do whatever we have to do. But I hope I can say this in a few years, but the Houston Rockets aren't ever going to be a rebuilding team. We're going to do whatever it takes to be competitive, just like we have to be in business every single year. We don't get to in business say, you know what, let's rebuild for a couple of years, because if we rebuild, we'll be going busted, Stephen A.
Wow. Tilman Fertita, owner for the Houston Rockets, right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. His new book, Shut Up and Listen, Hard Business Truths That Will Help You Succeed. It was released yesterday, September 17th. You can get it in the stores right now. I know I'm getting it. You can get it online as well. I know I'm going to get it. I have a copy, but I'm getting several more to give to some people, Tilman, just to let you know. It's interesting that you bring this up, because I think this is a question I would ask any owner at this particular moment in time. Covering the NBA for the last quarter century, basically, the way that I have, I've encountered owners whose definition of winning, obviously, are championships. But there have been owners, and are owners, Tilman, where if you're simply competitive every year and you're in the postseason and you have a chance, that's their definition of success. A, what is your definition of success? And B, do you have a problem with people who have that latter approach towards success in the world of professional sports?
That's really interesting. I hope those other 29 owners in the NBA just want to get to the playoffs, because I'm going to be shooting for the championship. So I would love for them to be like that. But, you've heard me say this before. You can't build a team that you could say automatically we're going to win a championship. As great as Golden State was the last 5 years, they still won 3 championships and lost 2. And so all you can do is build yourself a team that's one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the whole NBA every year, and then you hope for a little luck that your guys don't get injured, their guys do. You're in the right playoff seed to get that 7th game at home. It takes a little luck, so just try to be one of the top teams every year, because that's our goal at the Houston Rockets.
Tilman Fertita, owner for the Rockets, right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio, ESPN News, the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Tilman, how are you feeling about your Rockets now that they have Russell Westbrook? This is a team that was in Game 7 of the conference finals a couple of years ago. Chris Paul goes down in Game 5. You ultimately, Golden State captures Game 6 and 7. And then you have last year, obviously Kevin Durant goes down. You guys are in position to win the series, but you still ended up losing in 6. What is Russell Westbrook going to give you in concert with James Harden that you didn't get over the last couple of years?
Well, you know how unhappy I was, number one. And this is what you have in James Harden is truly one of the greatest shooters of all time, a guy that can put points on the board. What you have in Russell Westbrook is, and this is a fact, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, transitional player of all time in the NBA. my guys showed me the statistics on and the analytics on Westbrook and what he's able to do in transition. And I think it's going to totally change our team and the way that James now has a guy to transition back the other way. I think you're going to see what we're able to score points-wise if we continue just to take good shots and to play the way that we have. We've got a great new defensive coach in Elston Turner who is putting in a lot of new schemes. And it's an exciting year for the Houston Rockets, but it's going to be an exciting season with the new Clippers and the new Lakers and the new Utah Jazz and the good Denver team and, of course, always Golden State, that I am so looking forward to the competitiveness. Even the New Orleans Pelicans coming in is going to be an exciting game.
I got to tell you something. Elston Turner's a damn good coach. He's been around for a long time, been an assistant for many, many years under Rick Adam and all of those years, Portland, Sacramento, stuff like that. The man knows what he's doing, so that's a really good pickup on you guys' part. But I'll ask you this question about James Harden. James Harden is absolutely phenomenal. He was my league MVP. It wasn't the Greek Freak. He was my league MVP. He was sensational last season. But you do have people that look and say that's regular season. Postseason, he tails off a little bit, holding the ball, ISO ball. That's not going to work in the postseason. That's not going to deliver a championship. They look at Russell Westbrook, in my opinion, the most athletic point guard in the history of the NBA, but somebody who has shot less than 30% from three-point range at least the last 2 or 3 seasons. Any concern about those two elements at all derailing your championship aspirations?
Well, it is what it is, but I can tell you this, okay? And we looked at what you say about James and what you just said about Russell, but I'm convinced of this, okay? These two guys are both 30 years old. They're both under contract for the next 4 years, and if they're going to win a championship, it's going to be in the next 4 years. And talking to these guys, they're going to make the adjustments, whatever they have to do. I think that you're going to see Russell Westbrook do what he does best, and I think you're going to see James Harden do what he does best, and they're both going to correct and make their game better at what they do well and not do what they don't do as well. And that's what we're counting on. That's what they're counting on, and I think that's what the Houston Rockets are going to do this year.
Is it safe to say that you expect the relationship between James Harden and Russell Westbrook to be significantly better than the relationship on the court or otherwise with James Harden and CP3?
CP3 was a great player. We would have never won 65 and 53 games. He's one of the finest guys that I'll ever met. He's a great leader for the NBA. But he's 34, James is 30. And 4 years in the NBA is a huge difference in basketball years. It's not like it is in the business world. Westbrook and James came in together. They grew up in L.A. together. They known each other for many, many years. Was there good chemistry for James and Chris? Absolutely, there was great chemistry because we wouldn't have won all those games. But I think the chemistry is even going to be better for Russell and James, and I think people are going to see that this year.
Tilman Fertita, author, Shut Up and Listen, Hard Business Truths That Will Help You Succeed, released yesterday. You can go get it now. The owner for the Houston Rockets. Honor and privilege to talk to you as always, buddy. Looking forward to seeing you for this upcoming NBA season, my man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephen A. See you guys soon. Thank you, sir.
All right, buddy. The one and only Tilman Fertita, owner for the Houston Rockets, right there with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News, 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Back with more to close out the show in a minute. Don't touch that dial. This is the Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
Need game tickets?